Awesome. So next up, we have one of our first case studies. And as I said, these are great examples of real partnerships that actually, where the rubber met the road. So I'd like to invite up Pradeep Varadhan from Verizon and Ben Sharma from Zaloni. Gentlemen. I don't know who's first, but go ahead, grab a couple of seats. I'll rejoin you in a few minutes.
Okay, go ahead. Your mic is not on. Pradeep, can you hear me now? Okay. That was done on intent. This is, of course, a pun on Verizon, but at the same time, it also says where we were and where we are now, right? It's a telecom company at its heart, but it's much more than that. I'm not going to bore you about what Verizon does and what it doesn't. Today we are here to talk about what we need, but before I go there, I request that you take the next 5 minutes off from your small screens, which we empower, to look at this big screen, and of course listen to us here. So the first thing, what do you guys see here on the screen? What does the image bring to you, to your mind? What thought? When I conducted an informal survey with my coworkers, I didn't expect this response, but I looked at it from a data perspective, right? So I saw a clear delineation between the genders. So the men on one hand saw the attractive female, the center of the screen, okay? And the women, on the other hand, looked at the infinite possibility of the connected world that was staring in front. Again, I'm not trying to make a gender-based statement, just telling you the output of a survey. Maybe you're one side or the other side. Doesn't really matter, because I will go through both the perspectives of what it is. Unlimited, it's the name of our plan that we have launched recently. And part of it is to do with competition. Part of it is to do with where we want to go. I've titled this because this is what has been spoken about for the last day and a half, I guess. And the focus is on telecom provider, the network, and its accessories, everything that goes with it. So whether it is a product like Go90, which is trying to get 2 minutes of time from the distracted millennial in the form of clips, right? Or it is a paranoid parent like me who needs a car monitoring device like Hum, right? We covered the spectrum of products. We work with innovators of all kinds. I'll not bore you with the URL details. You can get in touch with us. This is where I want to focus my time today on. And I've deliberately left it without too much that you can read on the screen. So like any other company, Verizon is built on 3 fundamental pillars of people, processes, and technology. And at any given point in time, there's a continuous transformation of all these 3 legs. So we have people who have been cable splicers for the last 25 years. They can get each of those 840 strands right in place when they join those 2 cables. A repeated action that robots may not be able to do accurately. We have brand new MIT grads who just want to Pythonize everything that they see around them, right? Comes to process, you come to a store, we'll still tell you to fill a paper form for your credit card application, for your credit application. And at the same time, we'll turn around and say, sign a digital contract. Okay, the spectrum is very vast. Same thing in technology. The latest smartphones to the age-old mainframes. We support everything. The point that I'm trying to make is Verizon is a lot more than a telecom company. It is like any other company, and it has a lot of other things besides the network that we build. Of course, at the bottom line, we are an engineering company, and we build the greatest networks. So there's no doubt about that. But also along with it, we do a million other things. whether it is payroll processing, running email systems, this and that. Everything goes into making the company, and opportunities exist in all those spaces too. I didn't see anybody bring this up about the opportunities that exist in what is not viewed as a traditional telecom space. And to that end, I want to call out the two big words that you see here. Data, all kinds that exist today that have to be generated tomorrow, the application of logic on top of it, or not thereof, to arrive at conclusions in the form of scientific decision making. This is Silicon Valley. I don't have to preach about the value of data science. We are ingraining that in each and every of our processes. How can we improve everything from the mundane to the most complicated, utilizing data and science and everything that comes in between? So I want to extend the opportunity to everybody else outside of those who think very specifically of a telecom company in terms of the network and the users and the machines that it supports, to explore larger possibilities within the large organization that we are. And I'd like to wind this up by saying technology may do a lot of things for you, but finally, it's the people that do the connection. So please do take time to connect with us. Thank you. Back to your smartphones.
Thanks, Pradeep. Good morning. My name is Ben Sharma. I'm the founder and CEO of Zaloni. And let's see if the slides come up. All right. So what I was going to talk about today is give you a high-level view of who we are, what we do. We're in the data lake space. How many of you know what a data lake is? Great. So I'll go into some of the details, but we bring a software platform, work with a lot of operators in helping them enable various machine learning analytics use cases on top of foundational data platform based on a data lake architecture. So as customers or operators are going through digital transformation and bringing in advanced analytics to their organizations, it is, what we're seeing is a fundamental change from their traditional data platforms into a modern data architecture. And it's driven by need for having agility so that it's not taking them months or years to prove something out. Fail fast is often an approach that we see. It's also driven by a need for driving new insights. So how many customers do you have, and what are those customers doing, and how can you correlate data from various different streams or data sources to be able to bring new insights so that you can provide better customer experience, bring new products and services to the market. And then all of this needs to be done at scale. So we see data lakes becoming foundational as they think about a modern data platform and what is the next generation data architecture. So this is, I won't go into the details, it's a very busy slide, but what I want to convey here is that traditionally on the top is how a data platform is typically architected. You have source systems, go through an ETL process, load the data into a data warehouse, and then you have the insights on top of that from the data marts. What we're seeing is that more and more data sources are coming into the data lake. You're doing most of the heavy lifting in the data lake. And then you're augmenting your existing data warehouse, but also new greenfield use cases can be stood up directly on the data lake. And this is a journey, right? So we have this maturity model where you may be just using the platform to store the data, but then you have to have management and governance. That is key of what we do. Then you need to think about how do you automate some of these processes so that you're not doing manual work to ingest data from different sources. And then how do you use machine learning and various techniques to make recommendations about the data, to find duplication of data and things like that. It's a complex stack, right? And a lot of our customers who come to us have invested heavily but haven't seen the results. And the reason we see repeatedly is that it's a complex stack. They have to kind of put all these pieces together, starting from whether it's deployed on-prem or cloud, what are the storage layer components, what does the compute layer look like, the data management, data governance, and then the applications on top of it. So that is what we focus on, an integrated platform that enables our customers to bring in the data in a managed way, being able to govern that data with data quality, data lineage, lifecycle management, and various features, and then thinking about how to engage with the customers, right? How to engage with the data consumers with a rich catalog, with self-service capabilities on top of the data lake platform. So this is just another view of it. So the core is based on a metadata platform, and then we have all these features built on top of the metadata layer so that you can manage the data lake platform from ingestion to consumption. So these are some of the common use cases that we see with the operators. Data monetization is a key one. We recently went live with an operator where they're taking all the data from probes and the network equipment and then bringing it in to the data lake along with the BSS data to create a location-based analytics platform, right? So that they are able to then monetize those geofences. And one of the first consumer of that was the smart city in that region, so that they're using that data to have better traffic management and various services that they provide to the citizens. But as a side effect, they're now able to get a better view of their network. They're able to see where the congestion is, where the dropped calls are, have better customer experience. And then also on the other side, we're seeing some use cases with more software-defined use cases coming into the network. How do you use an analytics platform based on a data lake to be able to do orchestration in a smart way, to be able to see where things need to be provisioned and things like that. And then, of course, from a cost reduction perspective, IT optimization. So how do you take a lot of the workloads off of your expensive data warehouse environments and bring it into the data lake to be able to do it in an efficient manner. So that's all I had. If you have, and I guess we have a Q&A session.
Yeah, I'll do a couple of questions with you if we can. Great, thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, I guess we'll just, so what we'll find, everybody, is that when we have these case studies, my questions are kind of template-based because I have the same kind of questions for each of the cases. And we're going to use them to kind of suss out how a company does deal-making with a carrier in each individual case. So, without going too deep, and of course, people might occasionally stop me and say, oh, that's confidential, I can't answer that. But by and large, I'll ask similar questions of all of our cases. So gentlemen, the first one is, when did you guys, the two companies, first start talking together? How did you engage and when?
Yeah, so I can start and feel free to jump in. So we got introduced through a mutual connection over LinkedIn.
Yep.
We started talking about some of the use cases that Pradeep and his team were looking at, and what we were doing with some of our other customers, and that seemed to be a very nice fit, and that got started.
Pretty amazing. So you use LinkedIn as kind of the first contact tool, and was it actually connecting with Pradeep? Or?
Yeah, with Pradeep.
Phenomenal. And so as you started that, let's say after you had your first face-to-face meeting, how many months are we talking about before you came to some kind of agreement?
So you want to talk about some of the timelines?
Yeah. So this is something, and again, you would view a traditional telecom as being big and difficult to work with, and yes, it is. So I don't want to provide the misconception here that you walk in through the door and we'll just turn on the lights for you, right? Yeah. So it took time. We had an initial acquaintance, and we were able to quickly execute an NDA to do a very quick proof of concept, which set the basis for the conversation within the company. Then I would say we kept talking of other use cases, how to employ this for a while till things had to be further strengthened. The baseline had to be built for what would be the final use case that would move forward. And a lot of vetting had to happen internally. So all this while, I'll let Ben speak to it, there was a constant engagement on the part of Zaloni to understand Verizon's problem.
Yeah, so I think it's very important to make sure that you understand customers' pain point, what they're trying to solve for, and not just trying to sell your technology and your platforms, right? So building that trusted relationship is important to work with customers like Verizon.
Ben, if you can answer, how many carriers are you working with now?
So we have around 6 or 7 active carrier engagements right now, and some of them are multi-countries. So we're deploying them in an OpCo type of model.
Whichever one was your first, when you engaged with your first carrier, were you able to have the resources to address their needs immediately, or did you find that was straining you, or how did you handle that?
Yeah, we're we're a startup, right?
Yeah.
So we move pretty fast and we're nimble. So we're able to bring in our resources to be able to deploy and make sure.
So you got a LOI or a deal of some kind and hired up immediately.
Yeah. And most of us came from a data background. So when we were ramping up our resources, it's not like there is a long ramp-up time. We were able to bring them up.
Does that concern you, Pradeep? Like, not with the case with Zaloni, but in general, if you make a deal with a startup, are you aware of the fact that the resource drain you might put on a small company if they have 2 or 3 carrier, or maybe they have a big enterprise customer, and can they handle it?
Ben answered it very nicely, saying he scaled up. But of course, we knew the pressure that he was under when we pushed them hard to scale up for us, right? And that's the fear that we as a large company have to internally manage, because traditionally we don't want to do businesses with very small companies because of the risk involved, right? And a large part of that goes in the education and the trust building and the relationship building, and that's why it takes time. But it's worth it in the end. And to Zaloni's credit, I'll tell that they were probably one of the earliest in the space who both understood the technology and its application, but also how it would benefit us and how to apply it to solve a problem.
And you mentioned, I think, a gem of wisdom too there, in a sense that the knowledge of you avoid the 2 small companies. There's a higher risk that they can't scale up and can't get the resources in time, because there's a lot of small companies that go, I have a great idea, why can't I get a deal with Verizon? The answer is they're afraid of killing you with kindness. So you need to get that round of funding, or have some proof case grow before you can actually get that round. So on the pro and con side, what have been some of the challenges and some of the good things about working together as the companies?
Okay. So I would say on the pro side, it was primarily the understanding, right? The ability to work the small company, nimble, quick to understand changing requirements.
Yep.
I change my mind every day. So it's like all of us do. And it's important to recognize that we're not going to write requirements in stone and hold your feet to the fire there. So you got to work with us as dynamically as we move, right?
Yep.
That's good with a small company. The cons, you're working with a relatively new technology. You're working with a use case into the future, which is not seen. You're not sure there is light at the end of the tunnel. Are you throwing your time and you're taking away the time from a potential player who could do something else?
Yep.
That risk, that fear translates into some long hours and sometimes frustration, but eventually yields results.
You mentioned one of the challenges. Oh, by the way, the closing question is going to come next. It's advice you have for other startups. So be ready for that one. To what you just said, though, the desire not to kill a startup or to stretch them along so that they kind of just wither away and die. It's funny because from a purely Verizon-centric perspective, that really doesn't matter. It's not your investment. So from a business perspective, that's fine. But you got to look at the longer-term reputational impact that has on Verizon among innovators and entrepreneurs, right? And I think
Exactly.
that's the key.
That's the key.
You have this reputation that you build,
right?
And you need to make sure that people respect your company as a potential partner, right?
Right. Yeah, we want to continue extending our arm. We don't want to draw it back, but you still need to know it's a rough, hardened arm that you're working with. It's not easy to shake hands, but the arm is still there. So,
great. Thank you. And so to wrap up, Ben, any advice you got for people who are 3 years or 2 years behind you in this process, who are just thinking about starting some kind of a deal?
Yeah. So I think one thing that was very important to us, and it continues to be as we work with operators, is that you need to think about what are the pain points you're solving for them and build a trusted partner relationship, right? Don't think about this as a transactional deal that you're going there, selling a piece of software or service, and you're done with it. Because as you build that trusted advisor, trusted partner relationship, it is a long-term commitment on both sides, and they become your reference account, and you're able to go into other operators with some of the use cases that you have already done, right? So invest your time, make sure that you understand what their requirements are, you map to their requirements, and then take it forward.
Great. Ben, Pradeep, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, John. Thanks a lot. Great. Great.